All right, to get a little bit more detailed about structure, I'm going to show you guys just some basics about how to put in some structural families. I did show you how to already put in beams, but you don't yet know how to do like a joist framing system. Okay, so right now all of our assemblies are just kind of these masses, right? This is representing the striation or the cadence of joists that's going across the building. So one thing to note is I mentioned before that under the structure tab, you have this thing called a beam system. And a beam system is basically just a set of beams. Oh, well, that's not even, go like that. There you go. It's basically a set of beams, right? But at the same time, a joist isn't really a beam, but it can act like a beam, right? So it's the same principle as this. You need to make sure that you have joist families loaded. So let's double check this. We don't have joist families loaded, so let's go load a few. Yeah, discard. I'll go to Insert, Load Family. Let's go to Structural Framing. We'll go to Wood. Let's do it as a plywood web joist so that you guys can see some detail in the structural family. So open that up and let's go back to structure and let's do a beam system. Okay, so we're going to look at this on the side before we apply it to the building. Okay, so I'll check that off there. So we've got these things that are called TJIs, or you could plywood web joists, right? Where was I going? Oh yeah, framing, cadence. So basically, like, you have beam types here, and you can change this to whatever you want. It could be W sections. It could be, the plywood web joist. You will define how frequently these things are spaced. So typical spacing for these kinds of elements, if it's like a roof, or rather if it's like a floor structure, you'll go anywhere from like 16 to 24 inches. If it's a roof structure, you generally can have a little bit more spacing, like 24 inches, possibly more if you've got like really thick deck. But what we're going to do is change our fixed spacing to 16 inches. Okay, so that revises that whole family to be just a whole set of these joists. Okay, that's a very important distinction. So the other thing that you need to know about these is that they are Workplane based. And right now the Workplane I'm in was in the 3D view, so it defaults to the first level, level 1. And be aware that structural elements are frequently measured to the top of the structural element. So if you have a wide flange in the field of architecture and structural design, when you're trying to draw your plans, the top of steel elevation is the one that gets called out. Okay, so that's where everything is measured to, is your top of steel or top of structure for wood. So that's why these things are kind of extending downward. Secondarily, the structural elements, if you're reviewing a structural plan, like an actual structural framing plan, all of the, basically, like if you're looking at second floor framing, you're looking at second floor framing and the structure that supports it. So technically you're looking from the second floor, right? Like you're let me find that floor plate. Don't worry about it. So you're looking from the second floor, but you're looking down through the first floor, versus in an architectural plan, you're cutting 4 feet above the second floor and you're looking down at the second floor. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. So I just want you to be aware of that, because let's say when you're putting in, say, a column. So let's drop one in real fast. It's a W-shaped column. Pretending I'm in plan view right now, I'm going to drop a column right. Not a slanted column, vertical column. So I'm going to drop a column in here, column in there, column here, and column here. And what you're going to find is that those columns are actually not sticking up above my first floor. Okay, so that is what I'm referring to right there. They go down from the view that you're in, or whatever your base framing reference plane is. Okay, so anyway, that said, let's take a look at modeling via reference plane. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to jump into I'll jump into my elevation view, and I'm going to look at the east or west elevation. So I'll go to east elevation. Okay. With this, I'm going to establish some reference planes that are going to be basically where they need to be built. So for all intents purposes now, guys, I'm going to create a new roof that only shows the plywood so that you can really see the framing of this element. But you don't need to do this. I just want you to understand what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this. I'm just going to call it plywood decking. I'm going to get rid of everything but the plywood. And then I'll move that elevation up to there. All right. So in 3D, right, all we have is plywood decking. And then the fascia, boards and stuff would go up, and you'd flash around that and stuff like that. So in my elevation view then, I need to establish reference planes that are going to be for each side of the roof. So I'm going to say reference plane, and I'm going to draw it along the underside of the deck. I like to kind of pull them out a little bit so that it's readily apparent where it is and what it's aligned to. This one I'm going to call, I'll call it north slope, and then I'm going to do another one on south slope. In reality, I'd probably have another naming convention that says like top, like level 2 roof or something like that, or high roof, low roof. Okay. All right, so now that I've got those two reference planes, you'll notice that you can't see them in 3D. Okay, so they are a planar element that really you can only see when you're looking at it perpendicularly. Okay, but they're there. So I'm going to go into my roof plan, okay, and I'm going to draw another beam system. This beam system, oh, you know what? I need nominal lumber. I'm going to do nominal lumber. Let me insert. I'm going to go down to structural framing. And let's do 2x12s. That should be fine for us for now. All right. Back to structure then. We're going to do a beam system. The way I'm going to do this is really I'm just going to trace that whole northern slope. So I'm going to say from here to here. Make sure that's done right. Okay. And then when you click on reference, oh no, not drawing a new reference plane. Let me hit check real quick and just see where that went. Okay, so two things happened when I dropped that in. Okay, the spacing is too off, and it's facing the wrong direction. And it's not even assigned to the plane. So what you want to do is make sure you assign it to the plane that you want it on. And if you go to Edit Workplane, you can change it to a named, why isn't it showing here? Yeah, but it, hang on. Pick a plane. Hang on a moment. All right, so I don't know why I can't change it to that particular named system after I've made it, but let me just delete this real quick and then we'll reconstruct it, okay? So when you go to beam system, go to set. Maybe that's why, because I tried to click reference, or yeah, anyway. Go to set and then change it named and go to north slope, Okay, so hit OK. And then we're going to draw this rectangle on the north slope. And we need to change the direction of the beam. So see this little double dash line there? That is showing you the direction of the beam system. So if I click this and I select a different one, then the beams are all going to go that other way instead. So let's change this to 16 inches on center. Actually, let's go 18 inches on center. Just make it an easy 1'6". And I'm going to hit check. Okay, these little symbols pop up. Don't worry about that. I just want you to show, want you to see the structure. Okay, so here we have the actual execution of what the joists would be in a framing condition. Is that clear? So, and this is, we're getting into the area that really isn't my expertise, but because I don't use this very often, but there are some like end trimming conditions and stuff that you could build onto it. I just don't recall where they are. I'd have to look into that a little bit. Okay, but that's the gist of it. And I'm going to try and figure out for you real quick how to do that same trim that we had at the bottom. It might just be like a void thing that we do. Any questions about that?
Did you record that?
Yeah, it's recorded. Yeah. Cool. So with that said, you guys now kind of know how to do, if you wanted to, with a structural system. You don't have to do it with a structural system, but you kind of now know how to do a very easy trellis, like that. So if you want to play around using structural families for that, go ahead. Or you can do it with an in-place mass, which is a little bit easier for a new user. All right, so if there are no questions, then I'll close that book.